Okay. So first and foremost, I want to say to you, thank you for taking the time out to come to our educational community civic series here at West Empower. We're a nonprofit organization, grassroots organization with the spirit of giving back with unity, education, and support. And what we have found, prior years is that we were coming out in droves for the presidential election and not coming out for our local elections, which affect our lives 365 days a year. So what we decided to do was come out and educate our community of the importance of the who, the what, the where, and the why.
Great.
And so we came up with our educational community civic series. And again, I want to thank you for taking time out. I'm sure you have a busy schedule to join us tonight.
Sure, no problem.
Thank you. Thank you. So if you have no questions, we can get started.
Let's do it.
Okay, so first and foremost, of course, I got introduced to you, and for anyone that is listening, can you tell us, who are you?
Sure. So my name is Ilan Zur, and I am running for Court of Common Pleas judge. A little bit about my background. I actually grew up in New York City in Manhattan. My mother worked at a nonprofit, and my dad was a travel agent. I ended up in Pittsburgh because I applied to Carnegie Mellon University. I actually wanted to be an architect initially. So went to Carnegie Mellon. At some point, changed course, and I graduated with a business degree and a minor in architecture. After that, I took a year off because business just wasn't it for me. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but after giving it some thought, I wanted to pursue a career as a DA, as a prosecutor. I wanted to, the way I saw it, I wanted to help people. And specifically, I thought the idea of doing trial work was interesting and exciting. And at the same time, I could be doing what I thought was contributing to the community by specifically helping individuals who have, suffered violent crime. That was my motivation, to help those people, to be a voice for victims. So I went to law school at University of Pittsburgh School of Law. And my first and only job out of law school was working at the Allegheny County District Attorney's Office. I've now been there for 22 years and primarily as a homicide prosecutor. That's what I see myself, that I did quite a bit of time, only 4 years in the unit, but I still prosecute homicide cases. And more recently, I guess it's been about 8 years now, I got promoted to be the supervisor of our violent crimes, firearms, and our narcotics division. And we are responsible for now 14 trial assistants that are underneath me, and they are responsible for prosecuting the majority of the felony drug cases and violent crime cases that are in Allegheny County. So
wow. And I'm so glad to hear that you your mom was tied in with nonprofits, so I'm sure that you understand the importance and the work that goes into the nonprofit work. And also you had stated that you were in one department for only 4 years. 4 years is a lot. That's a lot of time to make change, to see things, and to grow. So thank you so much for that. And so let me ask you, so why Court of Common Pleas?
So I never thought about being a judge when I went into the DA's office. Again, my motivation was to be a prosecutor, to help people who are victims of crime, be a voice for them. And over the course of my 22-year career, you start to appear in front of judges who actually, start having less experience than you have. And the Court of Common Pleas is also, as you probably know, but in case the viewers are unaware, it's our trial court level. It's where all our trials happen. And that is the court that I've been practicing in for 22 years. I've probably spent thousands of hours in the Court of Common Pleas. I've probably tried well over 400 cases. And specifically, those are non-jury cases, meaning that the judge decides. And then you also have jury trials, and probably done about 100 of those. So based on that experience of 22 years, I know the ins and outs because I'm in court almost every day. Not so much now that I'm supervising, but earlier in my career on a daily basis in court. So I understand the system. I know how it works. And therefore, I think that's why I'm a good fit for the Court of Common Pleas.
Yeah, yeah. So, and that's extremely important because, like you just said, the experience that you had right now with these unique 9 seats, a lot of people are asking for experience, so thank you for sharing that with us. Now, I do want to ask you, coming from prosecutor to the court of common pleas, can you share with us what can you bring? What value does that bring or in substance to the bench?
Sure. So when I'm talking about what I can bring, I am more specifically talking about the criminal division in which I practice and what I think I'm best suited for. So as a prosecutor, I believe that I've seen a lot. I've seen it from both sides. I think I don't just try to see it from my side. I think one of the most important things, if you're preparing a case for trial, is you have to anticipate everything the other side is going to do, what they're going to say. So in a sense, I consider all those arguments too. Also, as part of preparing for trial, sometimes you use some of the individuals that were charged with the crime. They become your witnesses. So in a sense, you start talking to them and you understand, you talk to their attorneys. So my point is, I'm not just seeing this from one side as a DA. Okay, I think I can also appreciate it from the defense attorney side. A lot of my close friends who I've come up with in the office who have now left to do private defense work, we talk and they explain to me their frustrations, what's going on from their point of view. So although I have not practiced as a criminal defense attorney, I think I do have at least a good understanding. I'm not going to suggest that I have as much as someone who actually did the work, but my exposure to it through trial, through talking to people, has given me, I think, a broad range, a good perspective of both sides. So in addition to that, what I think suits me well for the bench is that unlike what maybe most people think about prosecutors, it's not just about full speed. I got a case in front of me, full speed ahead. Let's prove it. And not at all. And maybe it was a little bit more like that when I was a younger DA, but it's been 22 years now. And I have seen the situation where someone innocent is charged. So I know it happens. We know that people are exonerated for crimes they did not commit. We are aware of that. So first and foremost, I want to make sure that any case I have, number one, I believe that person did it and I base that on evidence. So I look at my cases very closely and I'm aware that some cases are not as supported by evidence like they should be. All that being said, I think it gives me the perspective that's needed to recognize that just because somebody is charged does not mean that they're guilty. And I fully understand that. And I fully believe that. And what's more, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but like the first step of in the criminal justice process following the arrest is the preliminary hearing. Yeah. And that's kind of like a mini hearing. It's before you go to the court of common pleas. It's at the magistrate's office. And the burden of proof is different than at the court of common pleas. So at the magistrates, it's what's called prima facie, which means basically that it's more likely than not. It's a much lower burden. And that therefore usually just put on maybe one witness. You don't need much evidence to get it forward, to get it moved to the court of common pleas. Once you're at court of common pleas, the standard of proof to find somebody guilty, my burden is that every single element I have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. Much different than prima facie level. So one of the things that I think is important also is like a lot of people are of the philosophy that if you have enough to make the arrest, and then we'll figure out the rest. I've seen too much to do that in the sense that I've had that before where, okay, we have this for the arrest, but guess what? Nothing happens afterwards. It's still the same case you have, which is not good enough to prove. I think it's important, as a prosecutor to make sure that the cases you approve are cases you actually believe you can prove beyond a reasonable doubt. Wow. Go ahead. Sure, that being said, I think being on the bench and having that perspective is important. And it's what's going to make me fair and open-minded, because I realize that just because you're charged doesn't mean you're guilty of something. And so, I want to go right into my next question, because you had stated on at the beginning of your answer that, you have been on both sides. You not saying that you were, that you can say that you have the experience of someone who was actually, doing it, but you have been in, you have friends, you have talked about it. So I want to talk to you about being a prosecutor and what you can say to us
or explain to us how, because there's some folks that the prosecutor is always the enemy.
Sure, I get it.
Okay, so the prosecutor is the enemy. I want you, can you help us to educate us on how to look at you or a prosecutor going for the Court of Common Pleas seat, and not, not the title prosecutor, but the person, right, and what this person can bring to the table as a prosecutor.
Sure, and that goes back to, I think, one of the most important qualities for a judge to have, and that's to be open-minded. Everyone needs to be open-minded. You can't just categorize an entire profession as bad or good. You have to realize that there's both. And that goes, of course, for police too, right? We know that there are bad police, right? I've had the fortunate experience of working with mostly very professional police officers that I respect. But you just can't judge someone based on what they do. And again, as a judge, you can't judge a book by its cover. You have to listen to what the case is about. And as far as it goes as me being a prosecutor running for judge, all I ask is someone listen to what I say, because I'm not what you think I am. All right. I'm trying to make the right thing happen. That's my main goal as a DA. And if that means withdrawing charges, then so be it. And just as an example to tell you, had a case a couple of years ago, somewhat high profile. And the only reason I mention that because it made the ultimate decision a little bit more difficult. Okay. Someone was charged and arrested for criminal attempt homicide, aggravated assault. This person was minding their business, a young female. She was shopping at the Walmart and in Allegheny County, one of them. And she was jumped by two people that she knew, two other young females. They tracked her there. She was there and they followed her there. And when they got there, and this is on video that I saw all this, as soon as they saw her, they just jumped her, punched her, kicked her. She ultimately was able to wrestle free, and she grabbed her gun from her purse. And she shot a few times. Okay. Ultimately, she hit one of the girls. So she was charged with this crime. Okay. I got the case, and we actually even had a preliminary hearing on it in which I presented the video testimony, and the magistrate held those charges over for court. Okay. Following that case, I spoke to the defense attorney who I've known for a long time, and he was telling me that essentially I've got this wrong. Like, you need to understand the background to it. You need to understand that this individual that we charged was targeted, that there was a history here. And so after he explained it to me, and after looking at the video even more thoroughly, the ultimate decision was made to withdraw the charges. Now, a couple of things factored into that, and this is why I hope people see another side of a prosecutor. I could have presented that case. I could have gone forward with that case. I may have gotten a conviction. You never know. Likely not, though. But I knew that. And that's part of my decision to have dropped those charges. Because of my experience, I knew that it'd be very difficult to convict this person for shooting someone under these circumstances when she didn't invite this, and she acted in what she was saying was self-defense. Now, what made this difficult and why this was charged is because the person that she shot was unarmed. They were punching. So goes, that's saying you don't bring a gun to a knife fight. But in this particular situation, once you see the video and you try to imagine, what she was going through, she didn't know how far this was going to go. She was blindsided. So you have to consider that and figure what she was thinking at the time. And in looking at the whole case as a whole now, it was more about what's the right thing to do. Sure, I could have gone forward, but the right thing in this case was to withdraw the charges. She had no criminal record. It would have, obviously had a great effect on her life. So you can see that too, because I'm looking at it from both sides. And if someone commits a crime that is like I do, I prosecute first-degree murder cases for the most part. That's a penalty that's very significant. It's life without parole, but that's premeditated intent to kill. Now, if you do that, well, we're going to go forward on those charges. But I look at every case closely. I'm not just going to proceed on a case because I can. And even sometimes the law can be on your side as a prosecutor, but it's still not the right thing to do. You just got to look at things. And I think it's my experience. It's seeing as much as I've seen that gives me the perspective that to make decisions like this.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. I think the example that you gave, and I hope that everyone is heard that and grasps exactly, because what I'm hearing is that you literally did not have to say, okay, well, let me look at this, and and then make a decision. And I think that I want everyone to grasp that is listening, that that is exactly what we need to be doing with these 9 seats, making sure that we are electing people and putting them in there that has the wisdom and know-how to look at everything, not nothing in just in a box, but look at the pros and the cons, able to take wins with losses. So thank you so much for that. Thank you so much. Um, Let me ask you this. Now, the stats say, the facts say that last year, unfortunately, um, there was only 13% of criminal cases that received diversion. And then in that same sentence, there were only 2 people that went through mental health court. Um, can you educate us on, how can the Court of Common Pleas address this emergency and reshape resources needed in our court systems?
Sure, I can give you my perspective about it, and it's coming from where I sit. So I
Okay.
got to be honest with you, I don't have direct experience with mental health court.
Okay.
A lot of our cases don't end up there, but what I do know quite a bit about is drug court, which is a diversionary program. So
Mm-hmm.
as I mentioned, I'm the supervisor of our violent crimes and narcotics division, but also I oversee our drug court. Now, one of the individuals I supervise actually is in charge of drug court, but I do know quite a bit about it, and I do talk to her and get some feedback. So with respect to drug court, what I could say is that you have to also consider this. Just because the number is low, a lot of it has to do with the person themselves, at least in drug court. So as an example, I review most of the cases that come through Allegheny County that are felony drug cases.
Okay.
And also based on my experience, because I also spent some time in our narcotics unit when I was a younger DA, I have experience, and so I know what to look for when you're looking for someone who's a drug dealer. So you have your drug dealers that are for profit. You got drug dealers that are trying to support their habit.
Yeah.
And it's very obvious which is which. And you only have to look at their criminal records, right? The drug dealer that's for profit usually is going to have just drug dealing. You maybe got a gun. The drug dealer that is addicted is all retail theft, forgery.
Yeah.
You've got these signs. So you can tell what's what just by reading.
Wow. Yeah.
So in my role, when I review a case like that, if I see that, instead of sending it to our narcotics division for prosecution, I can try to steer it to our drug court program.
Okay.
So I'll flag cases if I see that somebody might be suited for it. I'll present it to the trial assistant who's responsible for drug court, and she'll take the steps to try to get that person in. So in this particular case, and what happens with a lot of cases, is that person would rather have gone to the regular court because they were going to get what they knew to be probation. They weren't going to jail on those charges. And they know that if they go to drug court, well, it's more intensive. It's actual treatment. It's inpatient.
Yeah.
You can just get out and go buy some more drugs. So you're going to get some rehabilitation. So you need that person to be ready to accept it. We can't force it on them a lot of times.
Yeah.
So I think that's something someone should consider when you look at the statistics. It's not about necessarily the availability of the resources. It's that individual. Is he willing or she willing to accept treatment? But another thing I could mention about drug court is that there are limitations as to who gets in. So you need to have sort of a certain prior record to get in. A first offense may not be eligible for a drug court program. So the thing I would say is let's consider expanding it to other people, to anyone who's an addict.
Yeah.
So those are some of my thoughts on that issue.
Thank you. Now, I don't know if you're allowed to tell us, but because I forgot his name. What's the judge for drug court?
Is it Judge Nahaus?
Judge Nahaus. Yeah, that's him. Thank you. I couldn't remember his name. Yeah, that's him. Okay, well, thank you for that, because you know what? See, we didn't know. Well, I didn't know, and I'm hoping that you just educated us on sometimes we don't get the exact percentage because it was deviated somewhere else. So to another form of, okay. Well, thank you so much for that. Thank you. So now you touched a little bit about, you know, your passion is trial court.
Right.
And so, you know, and you did share with us that it was your, you know, that was your passion, because I wanted to ask you, you know, was it ever a time that it was challenging instead of a passion? You know, because sometimes with trial court, there's people that they are eager to take on that challenge, you know, and some don't want to, they will rather, you know, shy away from that. So can you educate us on your experience with that?
Sure. Well, what I've seen is, being in my office for as long as I have, is that you have people come through that it's just not for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to be in court, to be in trial, you know, some people, they just don't do well under those, in that environment. So they realize that pretty quickly. But as much as I like it, it's still always a challenge. You know, every single case is difficult, especially because of the cases that, if I'm taking them to court, they're going to be most likely a homicide case, which, you know, you're going to have 20 to 30 witnesses. Usually it's just a lot of evidence, a lot of organization. It takes a lot of preparation. You got to know the ins and outs of the case, but it's work I enjoy. I like working up a case. I like putting it together. It's especially when you have evidence. So it's something I enjoy, but it's definitely time consuming, and you got to really put a lot of time into it if you want to do it well.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. So my next question to you is, you know, like you said, you have been around, you know, you have not let grass grow under your shoes. So I want to ask you, can you share with us some very extremely bold, you know, right now we are greater, this is a quarter of the seats, okay? A quarter common pleas. So what we're looking for, let's just say the community is saying, we are looking for some bold changes that we are able to see. Can you give us a couple examples of how the Court of Common Pleas can like literally just show some bold changes that the community can see?
I think that's difficult. I'm going to give you some ideas, but let me just explain.
Yeah.
So as a judge, you have your own courtroom. You have one courtroom that you can control. You can control what goes on in there to a certain extent, and not completely either, because the prosecution, the defense, they all have some input in here. But it's one courtroom, and it's one person at a time. I think it's a gradual thing. Okay. And this is very important, because we have 9 new judges that are really going to shape this court for a long time to come. So if you have 9 judges that are qualified, that are all open-minded, that, you know, have the right intent and interest in being a judge, you know, to serve their community and not about themselves, not someone who's going to come in with an ego and make the courtroom about them, which I see enough, right? The courtroom the last person the courtroom should be about is the judge. It should be about the lawyers before you, the defendant, the witnesses, the victim, and even the staff that help the courtroom run. The last person it should be about is the judge. So if you have 9 judges elected that are similar thinking and have same beliefs of being fair, inclusive, equal justice for all, then I think eventually you will see change. But I don't know what any one thing a judge can do that's going to make immediate impact on a community. One of the things I was thinking about, like as far as problems with the Court of Common Pleas, is we have too many cases in the Court of Common Pleas. I think we should reserve it for the more serious cases. Like, it's a lot of other cases that misdemeanor, maybe non-violent offenses, could be handled at the magistrate's office. Now, currently, our magistrates don't have jurisdiction to do misdemeanor pleas for the most. You know, usually can only have jurisdiction over summary. But if we could somehow give magistrates the ability to dispose of cases that are misdemeanor levels, and let's save the more serious cases for the Court of Common Pleas, it'll help a lot. There'll be a lot less cases there. A lot more attention can be given to each case. So just an idea.
Yeah. And now you touched on my next question, because now you were saying, you believe that in time as a unit, that the community, will be able to see change. But as one bench is not going to be able to make, a big significant change like that. But as a unit, yes. And that's going into my next question to you. First of all, I want to say this to you. I love your and I'm hoping that everyone else is appreciating your straight to the point answers. You know what I'm saying? Because we respect that. We want to make sure that you understand that we know that when we're getting played with or getting, so I hope, and I'm sure that comes with your profession, that comes with, so, and I want to thank you for that.
Sure.
But my next question is coming, like you said, as a unit, but I want to ask you I want to ask you that, if you can share a vision with us that no one may be talking about. This may be something that maybe only your wife knows about, but if you can envision in 5, 10, 15 years from now, how would you envision the reshape of our court, of our judicial system, our court of common pleas?
That's a tough question, Terry. It does play in part. I mean, the idea I had about, and this is something they do in Philadelphia too, so it's not that novel of idea as far as the magistrates taking more responsibility or more jurisdiction. So our court of common pleas doesn't have as many cases to deal with, and they can focus on the more serious cases. But as far as 5, 10, 15 years from now, as reshaping the system, I'm not really sure, but there is something that I don't think is talked about that is very problematic currently. And are you familiar with second-degree murder?
I am, yes. Okay. But you can educate us. Okay.
Just also curious, do you know what the penalty is for second-degree murder?
I do not.
Okay. So first-degree murder, and I'll give you some context, is premeditated intent to kill. Okay. That's when somebody in their mind has fully formed an intent to kill and acts on that intent. And that penalty is life without parole. The judge has no ability to depart from that. That's a mandatory sentence. Second degree murder is also called felony murder. And that's a situation in which if an individual is committing what we would consider a dangerous felony, we'll say a robbery, that's probably the most common example. Mm-hmm. In the perpetration of that robbery, whether intentional or unintentional, someone's killed. And I'll give you an example of that. It's a case I had. Individual went to rob somebody, and they had a gun in their hand. And this was also actually supported by expert testimony, because the individual said that when he pulled the chain, it was his finger flinched and pulled the trigger. And as a result, the individual died. He said he didn't mean to. And it was, and I had an expert that I consulted with and said that that's a possibility, that as a result of pulling the chain off of the victim, having the gun in his other hand, that his finger flinched and shot him. So in that situation, the killing was unintentional, even though obviously we can all agree that it was extremely reckless.
Yeah.
I'll give you another example though of what you could be on the hook for in second-degree murder. So in that same case, there are two people involved. The one I mentioned to you who actually did the robbery with the gun and was responsible for the killing, but then the other person who conspired with him earlier to commit the robbery and gave him the gun. This other person never left the car even, right?
Yeah.
He agreed to commit a robbery and he gave him the gun. So now he is an accomplice to the robbery because he aided it with the gun. So he's on the hook for that murder too. Even though the person that handed off the gun in his mind probably had no, didn't have any desire for anyone to actually die. They just wanted the chain or the money. But because of the way the law is written, he's also on the hook. Now, the penalty for that, for second-degree murder, is life without parole. That's the same exact penalty for first-degree murder.
Yeah.
You have individuals sitting in jail for life. And again, these are actual cases that I've dealt with. that are young, early 20s, that maybe could be rehabilitated. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe it was an accident. Or what about the guy in the car who just gave the gun but actually didn't commit the killing? Should he be doing life in prison? Actually, I don't think so. And I think that is something that the legislator really needs to act on. I mean, I've been doing this for 22 years. People have been talking about it as a problem, but nothing has ever been done. And it's just about time, because some of the results you get for second-degree murder are just outrageous.
Yeah.
In jail now for life when they probably could be rehabilitated or given another chance.
Yeah. I am so glad that you brought that up, because I'm so glad you brought that up, because as you was telling the story, I was like, is he going to tell us what happened with the second degree, with the other person who the finger flinched, and then the guy who gave? So thank you so much for sharing that, because you, like I said, you had made a statement. I'm so glad you brought that up, because you had made a statement. You said, I've seen way too much come to the courthouse that should be resolved in other means. I recognize when someone deserves a second chance. And I believe that we all could appreciate that statement. And this was not a statement for everyone that's listening that was for today. This was something that I did research, and this was a statement that you made. I don't know if you made it prior to you making the decision. I just know that it was not recently. You did not make this, and I know that it was not for today. And I had to grasp that and grab it and make sure that the audience know that this came from you. This is a statement that, so when you said that, it just tied right back into what I had read about you earlier. So I got a couple more questions for you. Let me see. I want to ask you to tell, now I'm sure like I said, your wife, your family may know, but tell us something that you are proud about, but you do not brag about it. And a lot of people don't know about it. Can you share that something with us?
Sure. I have an excellent jump shot.
Okay. Thank you. So nobody knows that?
Well, people that play with know it, but
okay.
I don't brag about it.
Okay.
But you asked.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing a piece of us with you that you do not brag about.
And I know you had Judge Housey on before, right?
Yes, I did. Yes.
You can ask him, because we played basketball together. In fact, me, Judge Housey, Judge Beamer, we're all on the same basketball team at the DA's office.
Okay. And Judge Housey was, we had a ball. We had a really, really good time when he was on. Very educational, very educational, very passionate, very acknowledged, very knowledgeable as yourself. So yes, I thought you was great to say you beat him. That's what I was great to say. I'm great.
No, I'll give him that. He's better than I am.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. So let me ask you this, a couple more questions. Why you?
I think for the reasons I've stated to you, in the sense that I've been in the system, the criminal justice system, practicing in court, not behind a desk, for 22 years. I have a lot of experience, and I've seen a lot, and I think I understand it to the point where I know that you can't just make snap decisions. You have to listen to both sides. The truth is usually in the middle, and everybody's capable of lying. Everybody, we know.
Yeah.
So you know that. I think it gives you the right start to be someone presiding over a courtroom, making important decisions that affect people's lives. And I think I understand all of that due to my experience in being in the court system for so long.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much. And two more questions. One of them is, there may be some questions that I have not asked, or we may have discussed something that somebody wants to, go into the conversation further with you on that. Can you tell us, how can someone get in touch with you? They may want to volunteer. They may want to, any numerous of reasons of why they may want to get in touch with you. Can you share with us how someone can get in touch with you?
Sure, I have a website that would allow anybody to sign up and volunteer and get a message to me, and I would respond to anybody who's interested in talking. I really want to get to all the voters, so anyone's got a question. I really enjoy talking about the criminal justice system too, because I think a lot of people are uninformed about it. So when I get a chance to educate, I really like to do that. So you can reach me at Zur, Z-U-R, forjudge.com, the number 4.
Okay, okay. And do you have social media? You have a what? Do you have a Facebook, right? You have a
Yeah, I do.
okay.
Okay, yeah. So just Zur for judge, right?
Okay,
Campaign manager in the background there. Yeah.
okay. So yeah, so and before we wrap it up, is there anything else that you would like to say before we call it a night?
I just want to reiterate that at least myself and the prosecutors that I work closely with, we're not in it to just put people in jail. We are trying to do the right thing. But that I recognize that, yes, there are DAs I've worked with that maybe don't embody that. But for the most part, I know we have good people that are trying to do the right thing.
Okay, well, you know what? There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I always pronounce his first name wrong, but it's Ilan Zur. Ladies and gentlemen, Ilan Zur, please, if you have any questions, he gave you his contact information. If there's anything else that you would like to discuss with him, please do not hesitate to reach out. Again, here is Ilan Zur, and he is running for the Court of Common Pleas. Thank you so much for taking your time out with West End Power. And we hope to reach out to you and follow up, and we'll be watching to see to keep up with what's going on.
Thank you. And I'd be happy to talk to you anytime.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay.